Recording is on.
Hello, good morning. So I want to start from the basic configuration which we did the other day. So let me go to my packet tracer. Now this is the packet tracer. Like I said, we use it for network simulation. And here you can see the interface. Are you with me? So I have a router. You can do it along with me if you are not using your. So I have a router. I'll pick a router 2911. Just click on it and drag it. Then I also need a switch. This is the switch here beside the router. Are you following? So I have the switch, then I have two PC. So what I want to do is that at the end of the day, I want to use the first PC to ping the second PC. So I have my cable here. So I'm going to use, so here you have what? If you are using similar devices, you use crossover. And if they are not similar, you use straight through. So here I have router and switch. So I'm going to use straight through. So just click on the router, then click on the cable, then click on the router here. Then you have these options G0/0 auxiliary and so on and so forth. I can connect to any of these three, either G0/0, G0/1 or G0/2. Do you understand? Hello? Then you click on the switch and pick any of the interface too to connect it. Then I'll click on the straight through again to connect the PC. So I'll connect the second PC too. Now this is connected to fast Ethernet 0. So this is a single network. You can see how do you identify a network? The connection from the router interface. So in this case now, I have this router that connect to this switch. So this is a single network. This is a single broadcast domain. So I actually need an IP address. So you click on the IP address. Then let's say I want to use 192.168.20.0/24. Now each of these, they are called octet. So I have this 192.168.20. So each of these are formed with 8 bits. So what this means is that this is 8 bit, this is 8 bit, this is 8 bit, and this also 8 bit. So I can manipulate the last one. So what this /24 means what? The first three, 8 times 3. That means the first three is the network, while the last one is the what? Is the host. So 192.168.20, it will not change for this network. Like this PC now, I can give this PC 20.3 and give this one 20.4. So what I want to do is that I want to do basic configuration. And what is basic configuration? Basic configuration are just what you will do when you have a normal router and you are setting it up. Some of the things that you do when you are setting up a router for the first time. That is what we normally refer to as what? Basic configuration on a router. So now I have this router here. Double click on the router and then click on what? Once you double click, it will open a page will come up. Then you click on CLI, which is what? Command line interface. Please hold on. So command line interface. So now I want to configure this router doing the basic configuration. Are you with me, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You can practice along with me. So when you are opening a router for the first time, this is what you see. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? And my answer will always be no. No, no. I can also use a short form. shortcut by just typing what? N. So no means what? I want to set it up myself, because if I say yes, it will now start asking me to what? To do some configuration that I don't really need. So I want to do this myself. I will type what? No. Then this one, you have what? A greater than symbol. And that is what we normally refer to as what? User mode. User mode. So now this user mode, I will type what? If I want to see what I can do on a mode, please practice along with me. I'll just type what? Shift and what? Question mark. You can see. Although it's more than this, but because I'm using packet tracer. But the major truth of the matter is that what you can do at the user mode is limited. So I need to move to the next mode called what? Privilege mode, by typing en or enable. I can use tab to auto complete it. Type enable. So in this privilege mode, I have more options. You can see it shows more. And if you see more like that, I have more things I can do on the what? On the privilege mode. So what do we use this privilege mode to? By the time we use it to check status of our commands. If I want to see what I've configured, I'll come to the privilege mode. Like if I want to say show, there's a command, show IP interface brief. I want to see all my interface and what I've configured. Show IP interface brief. So that's the privilege mode. You can see now all my interfaces. I've not configured anything. This is what you are seeing here. So that's what we do at the privilege mode. Where we now configure mainly is what? Is the config mode. You enter there by typing what? Conf t. Or you can just type configure terminal or conf t. Anyone. Just press enter. So conf t. So this conf t now, I want to give my router a name. So I'll type what? What's the command to give router a name? You type what? Hostname. Just type hostname. Type it together. Hostname. And when you type hostname, whatever you give the router after that is the name of the router. If I say hostname R1, it can be R1, but make sure you use a name that signify where the router is. And if you want to use a compound name, you use what? You join it together with what? Underscore. Hostname R1. That's the name of the router. I've given the router a name. Hostname R1. Then, do you understand that? So now, the first thing I want to do is what? I want to set the console password. Now, what is the console? Console is just like the terminal. It's just like when you have a PC that the screen is broken and you now connect the PC to a projector. So console is just like the HDMI cable that connects it to the projector. So setting the console password, it give you only you are the only person that have access to that console. It's just like terminal. At times, you also install what is called terminal emulator. So that terminal emulator, you can install it and it will allow you to configure your router, because this router and switches, they don't come with monitors. So you need a console cable that will connect the the switch or the router to a what? To a monitor. So you have to secure the console. You have to secure that console. And how do you secure that console? You type what? In config mode, you type what? Line con or con is stand for console. Then this you have to know that Cisco numbering start from 0. So if I say line console what? Con 0. That's the console. Line con 0. Console 0. Do you understand? It's just one. The console is just one and the numbering start from 0. Line console 0. I also want you to understand that it's not about knowing the command to type. You have to make sure that you type the command at the right mode. Command that you're supposed to type in config mode, you can't type it in privilege mode. It will not work. Line con 0. Then you press enter. And you can see my prompt has changed for what? Config to what? Config line. So I will now give it a password. Let's say password. I type the command password. And when I type password, whatever I put After that is the password. Say password Cisco. Password Cisco. Then, and what I want to do is that I want it in such a way that after this, anybody that wants to log in, it should require what? It should request login. So I will type what? Password Cisco. I'll type what? Login. Login. Then another thing that you need to secure is one called virtual terminal. Virtual terminal is for remote connection. Remote connection means what? And one thing about networking is that you don't have to be physically present where the router or switch is before you can configure that router or switch. So I can reconnect remotely from a router. Let's say I'm on a router and the switch is inside this building or in the United States. I can remotely connect to that router. So I will now say what? What I need to do is what? I'll type what? Line VTY. Line VTY is virtual terminal. So I'll type what? Line VTY. And this virtual terminal, they are 16 in number. So I want to secure all the 16 virtual terminal. I'll type line VTY 0, then you ask what? Space 15. That's 16. Do you understand? From 0 to 15, that's 16. And press enter. I will now give it a password. Let's say password Cisco. Although on a live router, you have to use something more secure. Password Cisco. Then now I want it to also request login when anybody wants to log in. It will type what? Login. So now, the next, are you following me? Do you understand it, my guy? So the next thing now is that I don't want, uh, what I want to do next is not underline. So it's not underline. So I will type what? Exit. Then I want to secure the privilege mode. That's one of the, just like securing the privilege mode. The middle door before your config. I want to secure that one. So I'll type what? Enable. Although there's an enable password, but I'll just type enable secret, which is more better. Then what password do I want to give it? Let me just use Cisco. So that means if anybody wants to pass from the privilege mode, it will ask for